Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox. Proud to bring in guitarist Mitch Perry from the Mitch Perry Group. How are you, Mitch? Thanks for joining us.
Doing good, Mark. Just locked away here in L.A., waiting for this shelter in place to be lifted for us.
Yeah, what a bizarre time. And, of course, you have released a song we played a couple weeks ago on the Skaar Kaard, a track called Believe. Let's start there and tell our listeners why this is so important at such a kind of a transitional and weird, scary time.
Well, I'd been planning on releasing my new album, Music Box. I just hadn't planned on releasing it right yet. It was going to come out in a couple of months, and we had just finished mixing it the week before we all got the order to stay in our houses. So, the record's off at the pressing plant, and, I'm sitting at home going, okay, well, what do we do next? And I thought about it, and even though Believe is a ballad, and I normally wouldn't release a ballad first, the lyrics just are so perfect for what's going on today that, I immediately called up our videographer. I knew he had a bunch of footage that we shot for the EPK and discussed a couple ideas with him, and what you see is what you get, and that's how Believe came to be in existence before the album was dropped.
Besides your name, Mitch, I see a couple of names in there that played on the track that I'm familiar with. Tal Bergman, of course, spent a lot of years with Joe Bonamassa. Ed Roth, who played with Glenn Hughes. All kinds of people were involved in this particular track and your project.
Oh, yeah, I've been really fortunate to have my personal favorite musicians come on this record. I mean, I got Tal on drums. I have Dan McNay on bass, a phenomenal bass player. He plays with Jack Russell's Great White. As you mentioned, Ed's on there. And, Ed and Dan, as well as Keith England, one of our singers, they're all from Montrose at different times. So there's quite a bit of Montrose DNA in this lineup. But then we've also got guys like J.T. Thomas from Bruce Hornsby's band and Doug Pettibone playing pedal steel and slide guitar. He's from John Mayer's band, and Lucinda Williams. So really, really a great lineup of players.
Talking to Mitch Perry from the Mitch Perry Group about the forthcoming record, Music Box. And I'd be remiss if we didn't go back in time and talk about your beginnings. We were talking off the air that you kind of got on everybody's radar playing with Billy Sheehan.
Yeah, well, I'd actually come out to L.A. a couple of years before that. Pat Thrall had spotted me playing in a top 40 band in Florida, and he got me an audition with Alphonso Johnson, and I went out to L.A. in 1980 to record a record with Alphonso. He was a bass player from Weather Report and Santana. And anyway, after that, I ended up replacing Randy in Randy Rhoads in Quiet Riot, although it was called Dubrow. It wasn't called Quiet Riot anymore. And I did that, and that led to me replacing Yngwie and Steeler. And when I did that, I came under the attention of Billy. I flew back to New York from L.A., and we started touring heavily in 1983 and put the Live Speed on Ice record out.
Talking to Mitch Perry, and of course from there you worked with the late great Alan Fryer in Heaven, the third album I believe it was, and probably a lot of people have seen that great video for Knocking on Heaven's Door. Oh
yeah, that was an awesome time. we had signed a new record deal with CBS for that record, and we'd signed to Lieber and Krebs Management. And as you mentioned, Alan was just a powerhouse as a singer. I mean, for those who don't know, he was going to be the replacement for Bon Scott in AC/DC, and at the last minute, the brothers went for Brian. But Heaven was born out of that. It was a group that was formed by Mark Evans and Alan Fryer originally, and Mark Evans was the original bass player in AC/DC.
Right.
So
exactly.
It was a neat band to be a part of, and I'm really proud of what we did. You know, I just wish the business had fallen into place for it as we'd hoped. It was one of those things. We went out and did some touring, but it never really took hold the way we expected it would.
And then probably shortly after that, then you started working with Michael Schenker and Macaulay Schenker Group.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty easy segue to make because they were managed by Lieber and Krebs. So Michael was in the studio when we were recording Knocking on Heaven's Door. He came down and visited, and he saw I was playing keyboards on Heaven's Door as well. So fast forward to a year later, and I'm out in L.A., and I run into Michael, and he asked me if I want to play keyboards, guitar, and MSG. And I went, well, I don't really want to be a rhythm player. And he says, well, you do all the tapping stuff. I don't do that. And I think people want to hear it, so why don't you throw some of that on the record as long as you don't sound like me, I think this will work. Hey, this is great. So we literally went to the studio. I played a couple of solos on the Perfect Timing record, and from there ended up joining the band. And it was a great time to be in the band. I mean, we were out the entire year and a half touring with one of three bands. And remember, this is 1987 and 1988. We were either out with Def Leppard, Whitesnake, or Rush. So it was just a fun time to be in that band.
I think, were you on Capitol Records at that time?
Yes, we were.
Yeah. So after that, what happened? What did you do in the intervening years?
Okay, well, after we had finished touring that record, I knew I didn't want to go back. The band was based in Europe. And so I stayed in L.A. I ended up joining David Lee Roth's band for a very, very short while. Okay. What ended up happening, I did get hired to replace him, but in the first couple of weeks of rehearsal, it was obvious it wasn't going to work. So I ended up touring with Cher for a couple of years, which was actually a real blast. I mean, obviously she had done that Heart of Stone record, and all the Bon Jovi crew was involved with that. And so the touring we did it wasn't that much different from anything I'd been doing, except that the lead singer looked a lot better than all the ones I'd been working with.
We're talking with Mitch Perry from the Mitch Perry Group. So let's fast forward to now. You've got Music Box kind of on the back burner. People are waiting out this thing to see what's going to happen. What's the rest of 2020 looking like for you?
Well, when my crystal ball starts to work, I'll let you know. I mean, we're going to sit here and just survey the landscape and figure out what we can do to move everything forward, keeping in mind the most important thing is that we get past this pandemic and get everybody healthy and safe again, but there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, I'm not putting out the album the way I initially foresaw doing it, and I'm not getting to go out and tour now, but it gives me a lot more time to do promotion, over the internet and over the phone. And, we'll probably try and get lots of lyric videos together for all the songs. So there will be a lot of avenues for people to, go check out the wonderful variety of music we have on the album. Because, like I said, one of the things about the record that was very important to us is that it was an album that you liked each new song as much as the last one you'd listen to. I wanted it to be an album you listen to from top to bottom. And I think we got that. So we're going to try and get, like I said, as many videos done in the downtime and get the songs out there so people can hear them.
Great. I assume you're always writing?
All the time. I mean, for me, writing's more inspirational than I don't sit down and go, I'm going to write a song now. And usually I'm probably not the best person to say, hey, let's sit down and have a writing session with. But if you get me in the right moment, we might spit out 2 or 3 songs. Yeah, it's really weird. When they're inspired, they come very easily. And when you have to work at it, it always sounds to me like you had to work at it.
Sure, absolutely. Mitch, if people want to find you online or anywhere out there on the internet, how can they go about doing that?
Okay, well, we have, obviously the band's website. You can go to MitchPerry.com for that. And then, you can get a hold of us, by email with the info at MitchPerry.com. If you have any questions on where, you can find the album, we'll have all the answers. But right now, the single is available on iTunes and Amazon, all those good places. And we should have the rest of the album up shortly.
Looking forward to it. Mitch, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and you guys take care. Stay safe out there.
Mitch Perry Group. The single is Believe. The album is forthcoming. It's called Music Box. Check it out. For Mitch Perry, I'm Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox.